Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of July 20th, 2015. Welcome to the site to you new members and welcome back to the old members. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question, character animation, or performance answered in a video just like this one. It'll look exactly like this, but it'll be your question instead. To send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. There it is. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones I think will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Of course, it is the best way to get the most out of the site. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Man, it is exciting. It is exciting. Hopefully, you guys have all gone ahead and rushed over to my Steam Greenlight page for our video game Death Crank. It's a raucous good time of 8-player vehicle car combat. Hope you like it. Go check it out. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to my Facebook, go to Twitter, or check out twitch.tv/Arconics. Everything you need to know is there. Death Crank on Steam Greenlight. Appreciate your vote. We need the votes to get the game into the marketplace. So there you go. Thanks for taking the time to vote that up. I'm also releasing The Little Painter online this Friday. So Friday is the 26th. You guys will be able to see The Little Painter online. And I'm going to play it, basically broadcast it a few times through my Twitch channel before I put the page, make the page live. But regardless, that's what's going to be happening. Thanks for supporting that as well. The very last Kickstarter rewards are being sent out as we speak right now. It was the posters and the postcards that were being sent out, and so it's kind of the end of an era. It's a very exciting time to just to be alive. I'm always stoked. You can't unstoke me. Anyway, let's move on. This week's question is goody. Check it out. I want to answer this question. I feel like this is a good question because it kind of talks a little bit about the difference between pose-to-pose animation and something like tempo. It talks about the way that we are sort of determining what is an important part of a pose. So let me start at the beginning. I have this thing that I like to repeat, which is that no matter what you are animating, you have to, as an animator, resist the urge to create your poses just by what Maya is kind of telling you is important. Okay? So, like a good example would be when you have your IK movers, when you have an IK spine, IK root, IK arms and legs, then it kind of feels like the only things that are important to pose are just those controls. Okay, so here we have Goon, and this is an example of like when you have just these controls, you think to yourself, okay, well, I need to move them over here, I need to move this hand like this, I need this one down here like this. I need this leg, kind of up in the air like this. And, there we go. There's my pose. And then if you have an IK spine as well, he's got FK spine right now. Well, let's just take this as an example. All right. When you as an animator, it's very common to make it so that you're kind of roughing out your poses like this, with only the controls that you need to move approximating the pose as much as you can. But what tempo allows you to do is, instead of roughly posing your character into place and then nailing down those poses as you add keyframes, it allows you to get all of that timing out of the way. So you know your timing is a solved issue when it comes time to really nail down your poses. So as long as you don't stray from that awesome timing that you had, then you can really build your poses using absolutely the essential controllers that you need to get that exact pose. Okay? Because you know you are not going to find yourself in a situation in which your poses are making it so that good timing is not possible. Your poses are not fighting your timing. Your timing is in some places going to dictate your poses, but that's a better problem to have. So why am I pointing this out again? And why am I so nuts in terms of connecting everything to tempo? Well, here's why. If you are constantly, let me key everything here. If you are constantly only taking the main controllers when you are building poses, then the effect is going to be that the subtlety and the real way that the body moves is not going to be quite honored in your animation. We don't want that. We want the body to move very naturally. We want the body to have natural sort of weight and interesting rhythm to it. All these things. And the animator that asked this question talked about contrapposto, which is, very simply, it's just, counterposing, counterposing in the hips and the shoulders, okay? And what they were asking was, if in real life, every single vertebrae moves whenever you take on any spine pose, then why don't we always make a rule of rotating every single control in the spine for every single pose? Well, the fact is that you don't have to if you get the right pose that you have in your head. You don't have to. You don't have to obey total body mechanics. In fact, Goon has something like maybe 100 different controllers. King Kong had 300. And did we touch every single controller in King Kong when we were animating? Of course not. Of course not. So just knowing that we're not obligated to touch every single control means that we're taking the controls we need to build the pose. And that's very different from going through your animation and just moving the IK hips, IK arms, IK feet to make a rough pose. Do you see why? I hope you see why. The reason is, if you're doing just that, then what you are kind of saying is that regardless of what the final pose actually needs, really needs to get specific about the storytelling you're trying to do with that pose, instead of taking a very thoughtful approach to the construction of a pose given the controllers that you have, you are basically just whitewashing your posing with touching these 5 things. You are sort of blindly and thoughtlessly, not thoughtfully, but thoughtlessly, going frame by frame and adding the same sort of consideration to the posing of the character to each frame. When you have a really solid tempo pass, okay? And let's say that in my tempo pass, that this character, you know, is up here, but I have him in like this really stretched pose. Yeah, I might start by going like this, but then I might do some, you know, some interesting things. I might try to break this spine off of his, you know, off of this straight line. I might go into the neck and just see and test, because I have something very specific in my head. Just see and test, you know, what kind of neck and head poses make him feel stretched the furthest forward. You know, is it with his forehead leading right here? In fact, how far forward can I get? Like, what's the furthest thing? You know, I might have drawn it like this, but really, you know, if I'm being technical about it, his head is further forward when it's like his forehead up here. So this might be, you know, I might have drawn him with his, you know, neck totally outstretched and his nose leading with his nose, but actually it turns out that might not in the end be what I wanted. So I might be doing some experimenting right here. And then I might just, you know, get the arms out of the way for a second, or get the legs out of the way for a second. And knowing full well that this is where he is supposed to be in time to give me the strongest impact. I'm leaning back on that. I'm relying on that. I'm letting that fact and that decision, the very fact that decision has been made and I don't have to change it ever, is a lot of confidence. It gives me a huge amount of confidence. I can make very, 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 very directed motions and decisions based on that. It's such a strong foundation. All right? So I can do a whole lot of things. Maybe I want to start stretching his arms. You know? Maybe I want to do something like this. You know, where he's, you know, like totally stretched out. I don't know. But the fact is that with that timing completely taken care of, it's no longer an issue of, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what frame am I going to next? Okay, maybe frame 10, and then doing the normal thing of, all right, move his hips like this, and then this leg, and then this leg, and then this is all messed up. Gosh, which way does it go? And then this hand, and then this hand, and then what you basically have done, you think to yourself, oh, well, this is a rough pose. No, this is a weak pose that has the same 5 controllers trying to build it. Instead of going to a frame and a position and a moment in time with tempo and saying, I can use every single controller to pose this thing, knowing that I can nail down decisions right now without screwing up my animation. I can make very detailed posing choices because it won't mess up my timing. I can move confidently into posing and not be worried that I shouldn't be touching, you know, all of the spine controls this early on in the animation. You know, I don't have to just move this root around. I can, you know, put some keyframes into the spine like this and get exactly what I want right now. It's not dangerous to do this right now because it won't mess up my timing. So anyway, it's that confidence that I'm trying to instill, and that confidence comes mostly, if you ask me, it comes mostly from the exercising of that experimental muscle. From doing experimentation and fearlessly jumping into experimentation with your work, you start building just this huge amount of confidence that nothing you do will mess it up. And even if you somehow figure a way to mess it up, you can either get back or build upon that mess up and make it even better. That's the goal here. Okay. So that's a great question about body mechanics. I'm glad you asked it. It all comes full circle back to workflow again. Okay. And you're not, required to, do everything with tempo, of course. But the answer to the specific question about rotating all the controls, if in life all of our spine, moves, with every pose, shouldn't we be rotating all of the spine controls? All I can say is that with tempo, you can, with very little consequence. With a pose-to-pose workflow, you might get into a little bit of trouble. So just consider that. Okay? Thanks for the question. Remember, send them to webmasterkennyroy.com. Looking forward to seeing you guys' question in my inbox. We'll have a lot of fun together. I'm Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.